How's it going, gamers, and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. And for today we're going to take a look at the best climbing champions or best Loyola champions for 3.3a. Those champions are not the most broken meta champions, but those champions are super easy to pilot and super effective, and that's why we're suggesting those. Most of the lists consists of actually this kind of fact. Easy to play champions that are yet broken for the elo you're playing them in. So let's get rolling with our question of the day. What is the most annoying mechanic in WildRift and why? Let me know in the comments below. For our first champion we have Wukong in the Baron lane. This champion is probably the most easy champion to pilot next to Garen, because all you do is sit around and press your first ability on cooldown. This will heal you up, and once you hit a specific item breakpoint, which is called the Divine Sundra, it's game time, because dealing with you gets substantially more difficult. However, you as a champion are not necessarily designed to split push with this. Your champion excels at team fighting because you just go in, you don't die, and you knock up everything in your way, which allows your team and yourself to reposition yourself and carry fights with ease. It just becomes so much easier. Especially for laning, you have so much inbuilt sustain with, for example, Grasp in combination with your first ability. It gets super hard to get you out of lane, which is something most of the people in the lower elo struggle because they don't know when to reset, what to do, and what actually to think about the game. Therefore, things as Garen or Wukong are just substantially more broken than other champions that you might believe are way stronger, for example Riven, because piloting Riven, even though she is technically kinda easy, is substantially harder than playing Wukong. Piloting a champion in a mechanical sense in a team fight, a Riven compared to Wukong takes 10 times more the effort to achieve the same result than you would have with Wukong. This champion is just so nice and easy, but let's talk about laning for a second. Level 1, most of the time he skills his third ability to just get off better trades with an attack speed steroid. Level 2, he can skill his first ability for the sustain, and level 3, he has the clone available. And then it's all about weaving in auto attacks with the Grasp proc. You basically constantly play minigame with the Grasp procs on the enemy, especially using your first ability's extended range. That way you'll just heal up constantly and slowly chip them out of lane. And this is our full tier list for the top lane. Next up on our list comes the jungle role with the pick Vi. Vi as a champion similar to Wukong is pretty easy to pilot and just accomplishes many different things. For example, her jungle clear is quite insane because of how she works as a champion and her on-hit mechanic. And especially when it comes to isolating and picking out targets, she's super easy to execute. All you have to do is press ultimate on somebody and the person will most likely die. However, if you're facing people that know what's going on, they'll buy stasis enchant or flash you into the entirety of their team and then you'll get killed. But it's just super unlikely to happen. And you wonder why? Because don't forget it's about the elo. Most of the players don't know what's happening, and I'm referring most specifically to Grandmaster players. You might not realize it yet, but you will once you get to that point that you'll actually always overestimated those kind of players. But you'll see soon enough. What exactly makes Vi as a champion so strong in the lower brackets? Number 1, she farms super easily, similar to Shyvana. Alternatively, you could just play Shyvana, let's be honest, Shyvana is just goddamn broken. But so we're just not suggesting the same champion over and over again, we're just going with Vi here. And what does Vi do as well? Like, she'll always have some kind of value with the ultimate ability, which just makes it easy to force people to play in a specific way. That's exactly what you want. You can even go for a Triforce Vi, a Divine Sundra Vi, a Lethality Vi. You can just pick your poison and do whatever, it literally works. But the most consistent way is most likely Divine Sundra or Triforce. So just try it out and let me know how it went. And this is our full tier list for the jungle role. The next pick on this list is Ziggs, and here we have a major change to what the champion does. Previously, most of the time you could run Conqueror because of the percentage bonus damage and the AP you get from the rune, but nowadays just running Airy is more consistent, or even Electrocute if you want to really put emphasis on the damage. But this is something that's most likely reserved to Orianna on mages, but Ziggs can just run Airy without any problem. Another thing you can do on Ziggs and Orianna alike is you can technically start with a Sapphire Crystal, because laning wise having the AP doesn't make too much of a difference due to the frequency of spells you use. Next to that, it's also the difference between the objective spawning at 4 and now in 5 minutes, which means you have more time to get towards your Ludens spike, which is the strongest first item spike you can ask for, and this makes your champion significantly more broken than anything else. So technically speaking, you can start with the Sapphire Crystal if you believe believe in your laning capabilities and just want the extra mana, because it will roughly grant you the same mana as Mana Flow, which allows you to run the Hunter Genius, which makes it easier. But then you might run into trouble if you miss too many CS for your Ludens spike. Nonetheless, if you are capable of farming well and not die to jungle ganks, you'll get to your Ludens whatsoever, plus having a neatly stacked up Sapphire Crystal, which then translates into your tier, and then you have an accelerated Archangel as well. But what about Ziggs as a champion and what you have to do? As a Ziggs, you don't want to leave mid lane. You are a tier 1 protector and you stay there. You don't want to go side lane because then you'll be easily picked off. Your main job is to protect the first tower against anything that comes your way. If you need to help your team, most of the time you'll use your ultimate from the middle lane and throw it onto another lane, but beware of how you move close enough to throw that ultimate. Once you overextend just for a second, you might get killed, and once you're dead, well, then your tier 1 tower might be gone, and that's something you don't want to happen. This is your primary job, and you should remind yourself all the time that you should not leave that position. Clear wave, throw bombs, and direct the fight from a distance. You'll do enough damage, and once you have your Ludens, you'll realize that every bomb the enemy catches puts them so low that it's just impossible for them to fight. And if they do an objective and you are still alive with your ultimate ability ready, it's a festival for you, it's a massacre. You'll just completely butcher them if they choose to do so. Combining your bombs, your ult and everything, you'll just send them straight back to the fountain. And that's our full tier list for the mid lane. So the next champion on this list is in most lists very far down the list, but it isn't really the case, because for the climbing aspect, and especially for the low elo brackets, this champion is broken. The reason is very simple. Compared to like Tristana and Lucian, you don't have to thoroughly understand how to abuse a matchup. For MF or Misfortune, all you have to do is press your first ability and know about roughly the angle, and then you'll just poke out the enemy on cooldown. Trust me, most people will just walk into it because they're oblivious of the range and just have no idea what to do about it. Like sometimes when I play against an MF, I'm just like, really, I barely see the champion, and if I see it, I'm just getting constantly poked because I'm literally snoozing on my job. But this champion combines easy impact, a powerful laning phase, and everything you want in one champion. So give this champion a shot and tell me how it goes. But what about how to play MF? So we got the laning phase covered, but what's next? It's about team fights. Your ultimate is your deal breaker. Whenever you see a good angle in a team fight, you can just blast your bullet rain and then it's game time. The enemy cannot stay inside of it. So especially around fights at Dragon or Herald, you can actually be the difference maker. And that is where you have to be patient. You don't want to just throw out your ultimate, you want to make it worth. So take a look at the fight and wait long enough to actually impact the fight properly. Otherwise, you just lose impact. The next thing you can do is use your third ability to slow them before you get to your Serylda's spike, and then have an easier time forcing them to stay longer inside of your ult, or maybe even get summoner spells or any other kind of spell. But that's literally it. It's super easy and super helpful if you want to climb. And this is our full tier list for the AD carry role. Last but not least, we have the support role, and yet again, most people will hate me again, but if you're playing support in the lower elo, play mage supports. Don't play usual supports or conventional supports, it just doesn't work. The reason is your AD carry will just run you down and you'll have no way of winning because you're just a quote-unquote support. But what about playing like this so-called mage support? You just rush Luden's Echo and you just blast everything in your way, and if your AD carry happens to die, well, you just consume the wave. They'll lose it anyway, so even if they get upset about it, it's not your problem. But let's talk about what Lux does in lane. So Lux can run Electrocute, and once you trade with a Lux in lane, for example on level 1 with a third ability, combined with an alt attack once it attacks the enemy, your Electrocute will proc and you'll deal so much damage. Like if you've ever traded a Lux level 1, you'll realize how much burst damage she actually has in her kit. And if she gets to a point where she's level 5, you will also realize that if you get tagged by her light binding, you lose like 70 to 80% of your HP with a full combo. And then it's just an easy feat for the AD carry to clean you up. It's just so annoying. And as the game progresses, you'll realize that your ultimate has barely any cooldown, and with that in mind, you can just check Fog of War or objectives or anything you want. You can even snipe people across the goddamn map if you want to, because it happens all the time. And even though you're not building a lot of support items, you're still providing enough value for your team due to the amount of AP you'll have, and therefore your shield will be potent enough. Don't forget, you don't need to support people if you just one-shot the enemy, it's literally a fact. And this is our full tier list for the support role. You want more Rift Guides? Then tune in for the next time when we show you even better stuff. See ya.